Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the MACE Podcast. I'm your host, Marco Macente, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you. With this episode, we will cross over all the previous ones, as our stop is Australia, with a special guest, Liz Van Vliet. Liz is the founder and trainer behind My EA Career, and she hosts the Assist with Impact podcast. She educates, encourages, and motivates admin professionals by equipping them with the mindset, the reset, and the Power Skills Toolkit so they can shape their professional environment and experience and assist with impact. Liz developed her Linchpin Assistant Framework. Through her training, speaking, and coaching, she teaches them how to adapt their power skills to their current situation and relationship with quiet confidence, clarity, and certainty. Liz is the face and expert behind the MyA career. In 2013, during her recovery from breast cancer, Liz knew returning to her demanding career in senior sales and marketing was impossible. Instead, Liz became an executive assistant, a role that at that time she had badly misunderstood. Liz loves seeing her clients thrive in such diverse and challenging role. But more than that, she loves seeing their happiness and careers thrive. I am sure that she will bring a lot of insights to all of you. Please enjoy our conversation. Hi, Liz. Hello, and welcome to the MACE podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
Buongiorno, Marco. I am so delighted to be here. That was my attempt at a very bad Italian accent, but it's probably more, I shouldn't have said buongiorno. I should have said buona noche. Is that good evening? Because it's evening my time.
Is a good evening. Buonasera.
Good evening.
Yes, buonasera.
Buonasera. Buonasera. So yes, it's lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I'm so excited to have you here, and just to let our audience know that you are tuning in from Australia, so from a different region completely on the other side of the planet. So I'm so excited to have you here, and it's wonderful how we can get together in order to make this podcast happen. Thanks a lot, Liz.
So it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I have already shared with the audience a little bit about your history, a little bit about your background, but I would like to ask you my first question in order to start this interaction. So, Liz, you are the creator of the Linchpin Assistant Framework, and you dedicated the time and the efforts in making up the mindset and the tools to share them with thousands of admin professionals across the globe to enable them being the best they can be as Linchpin Assistant. When I was an executive business partner, I applied those precious insights and I was completely inspired, especially by one of your episodes of Being Indispensable, now Assist with Impact podcast, the episode number 120. I will share the link of this episode as well as of your personal blog in the description to let our audience be inspired as well by your advice and your insights. But could you please share with us how did you get this amazing framework and what is it all about?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so much, Marco. And I just want the listeners to know how highly I rate you as both an assistant or previous assistant and just as a human being, because
thanks a lot.
Anyone who listens to my podcast will know that I am all about the fact that we are human beings, not human doings. And you are just such a wonderful human being. You've been nothing but kind and generous to me in all the communication we've had since we first connected a few years ago. So I just want to put that out there for everyone.
Thanks
now, let me tell you, so the Linchpin Assistant Framework has been really a work in progress, and it still continues to be something that is evolving in terms of the way I talk about it. But essentially what it is me trying to distill, trying to convey the way assistants are operating in these different spheres. So basically, it is the idea that for you to be able to be in, what I describe as a linchpin assistant, you need to have a few things going for you in terms of your skills and capabilities. You need to have great functional skills, in other words, those hard skills that you develop with training and with experience in the role, so that you can calendar manage like a pro, and you can, inbox manage like a pro, and you can be a Microsoft Office, wizard. All of those things are your functional competencies. Then you have what I describe as the strategic competencies, and they're the things that enable you to see around corners and be able to support your executive in terms of your business and commercial acumen, being tuned in to what are the big rocks, as Stephen Covey called them. But there's a third thing that is vital for you to be able to get into that linchpin zone, as I call it, and that is these power skills. And they are the soft skills on steroids, is how I describe them. And that's why I call them power skills, because they're anything but soft. And so all of that has, so the starting point for me is always around noticing and observing the way assistants show up and the capabilities that they have in those areas. But then what I also found, and what I've developed in my training, is, for me, I'm a picture, I'm very much a visual person. And it became really clear to me that whilst those things were, that made a lot of sense, I really needed a way to be able to put things into boxes in terms of helping people see what is the roadmap for you to be able to follow in order for you to be able to elevate yourself into that linchpin sort of space. And that's how I came up with the framework, that it's basically, in order for you to show up as a linchpin assistant, you need to have developed the knowledge, the insight, and the understanding in 5 key areas. One of them is the power skills, knowing your power skills, but the other 4 are knowing yourself, knowing your executive, knowing your job, and knowing your organization. And it's just my way of making things make sense in terms of when I talk about something, okay, how is this going to help you? Which area of that knowing, of that framework, does this fall into? And where does it all, how does it all fit together? So it's come about from just being, I started my podcast over 6 years ago, and I have spent this whole 6+ years just really observing, learning, researching, through running surveys, doing my own training, speaking and coaching, and really wanting to understand what are those differentials that help an assistant move out of what I describe as the order taker zone. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for sharing those amazing insights. And I want to witness how those insights and how this advice worked very well for me, because I was able to recognize and to envision in my role those power skills. I was able to connect the dots, and I was able to show up and speak up and stand up for what I was doing. And definitely those insights that you shared in this episode, but in general with this framework that you provided to all of us, enabled me and empowered me to be the best I could be at that time. So definitely,
Thanks,
I want
Marco.
to witness for that.
Yeah, well, look, when I do, I mean, I've got 10 of these power skills, and
Yeah.
I think the episode that you've referenced is me talking about the 10.
Yeah.
But whenever I do any training, I always do a poll with the assistants in the training, and I ask them, out of those 10, which is the one that they struggle with the most. And without fail, the one that comes up is the one that is managing difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Because that is the one that is so challenging it's challenging for anyone, but it's particularly challenging when you're an assistant, and that power dynamic can feel like you don't have a voice and that you don't have a right to speak up for yourself. So that one, managing difficult conversations and communicating with self-awareness and managing up would be the three that always come out in the top top few.
I agree with that, because definitely I also had the possibility to speak with other peers that were covering that role. And I understood also from my network that admin professionals all around the world struggle with such a kind of things. So understanding how we can connect and how we can get the right approach in order to manage up our manager, or in order to engage our manager when we need to make such a kind of difficult conversation, definitely is key and can make the difference. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and that is what I get the most joy out of, is the fact that in what I do, working with assistants, I see how transformative it is to be given the words and just some simple approaches, which is, that is, that's the thing that I never valued in myself many years ago. But I do have this natural gift for communication. And so being able to work with assistants to be able to help them find the right words to start with, think about how they're going to approach these conversations and these interactions, plan it out, and then see and make them feel that, get in touch with the mindset that they need to have in order to do these things that can feel really challenging. Because the result of it is that they then are just seen in a different light, and it just enhances your credibility and your reputation when you're able to have those sort of difficult conversations and be able to navigate relationships that aren't ideal.
Great. I totally agree with you, and I'm so happy that you are coaching and you are teaching to thousands of assistants all around the world those precious insights and those advice, because actually we need those insights when we need to show up and when we need to be excellent in what we do. So definitely, thanks a lot for all your work, Liz, that you're doing.
Marco.
So, Liz, I would like to ask you my second question. We got together when I made an episode in your podcast, and now you are here as my guest in my podcast, and this is simply amazing. And that's why I love this tremendous platform, because it gives us the possibility to exchange, to share, and to get virtually different experiences and perspective. Now, you are based in Australia, one of my favorite countries, of course, after Greece. And since you are based in a different region, I would be curious to get your insights about the admin role. Which is the existing perception and which are the trends that you have there?
Well, I'm delighted to give you the Australian perspective, Marco. Thank you for asking. Look, I would say that in the same way as around the world, I see assistants sometimes being regarded as a commodity or just a replaceable, very easily replaced commodity. That is still something that I believe is the case with organisations here, and I do believe that some assistants have that going on in terms of the way they are valued, the way they are recognised within the organization. So I definitely still see that. But what I also see is that this last couple of years has really presented an opportunity for assistants in Australia to be able to adapt and take on responsibilities that they may not otherwise have had such time to immerse themselves in. And one particular thing that I've seen during the pandemic was so many assistants in Australia really being, I'd describe it as they were there as ambassadors for their team and for their manager, particularly their manager, in terms of helping keep the team connected and engaged during what was, in some places in Australia, Melbourne in particular, and Sydney, we also dealt with this, extensive lockdowns, and needing to be demonstrating the sort of agility and adaptability that during non-pandemic times they may not have been they may not have been able to demonstrate because the opportunity wasn't there. They were doing the things that were the normal run-of-the-mill, not run-of-the-mill, but the normal roles and responsibilities of an assistant. And because of the fact that during the pandemic, there was no travel to organise, there was no events to organise, they took on different roles in their capacity as an executive assistant, as a personal assistant. And I think that's presented assistants here with opportunities to be seen differently. And I definitely see that. I'm not saying that's the case with all of them, because I also saw assistants and executives who saw that what they needed from their assistant during the pandemic was not actually something that that assistant could provide. So I think if there's a lesson to be learnt for assistants out of that, it's the importance of, really claiming the contribution that you made during the pandemic for your executive, for your team, and for your organisation, and making sure that you capture that so that it doesn't just, we get back to business as usual, and that contribution, people can sometimes just move on. And I think there's a great opportunity for people to make sure that they're capturing that in their LinkedIn profile, in their resume, in their CV. How did I show up? How did I demonstrate adaptability and resilience, and being that not just the thermometer for my executive during the pandemic, but also being the thermostat and helping control the temperature through the actions that you were taking as, being, leading from where you were. So that's the sort of, those are the positive things that I've seen here and that I've certainly talked to assistants about, and I see in the assistants that I work with.
Thanks a lot for sharing, Liz. This is amazing. And I can say that, of course, we are not able to say that there is one size fits all, right? Because each region and each country has its own perception and its own peculiarities, let's say. But I agree with you, because also in Europe, we can say that the pandemic brought something positive into the workplace. And definitely admin professionals that were not able to be focused on travels, meetings, congresses, and conferences were able to transform the transactional activities into the strategic ones. And of course, here I would like to highlight here again a couple of topics and themes that you mentioned for our audience. Of course, the pandemic and the workplace has changed, and this has been a great opportunity for admin professionals. But I would like also to again underline, and I think that you agree with me, that the difference is made up by the people. So definitely, if a person wants to show up and wants to master and excel in his or her role, definitely this is up to this person, is up to us. And this is yeah.
Completely agree. Yes.
And this is another topic, the advocacy for the role that you mentioned, right? We need to be aware that we need first to show up and to advocate for our profession in order to stand up and to be seen as one. So I really, I completely agree with this topic, and I see that also in Europe, such a kind of movement started during the pandemic, and now we can see different and several admin professionals that want to raise the bar, that they are able to, thanks to these opportunities that we see now in the workplace. Yeah.
Yes, and that's definitely, you know, the other thing that I would say is happening here is there, you know, when I first started working, when I first started in my role as an EA, you know, 7-8 years ago, there was only a couple of organisations and a couple of people out there advocating for the assistant professional in Australia, and that has been something that has changed. I feel that there is a lot more visibility for the role of the executive assistant and the personal assistant, and we still do have work to do in that area, as I said, in terms of the perceptions and stereotypes of assistants being just another type of, you know, corporate asset that is a commodity. But I think there's been some progress there, and it's about, you know, I think the work to be done, you know, and what I do in my work is I've really moved into the space of being an EA. I describe it as being an EA strategist, working with EAs, but also working with organisations to help them get more out of this resource and elevate those people through training and development, so that they can be more effective and more efficient and more engaged.
Yeah.
And that's something I think is, you know, I really enjoy doing, and that means, you know, means a lot to me to be able to do that.
Yes, thanks a lot for sharing those precious insights, Liz. And this last topic that you mentioned helped me to introduce my third question that I would like to ask you. So we mentioned that you are the CEO and the director of your company, My EA Career, and you are a business podcaster as well, and you have made an incredible job when making more than 150 episodes, all of them related to relevant business topics on the profession. You have recently rebranded your podcast from being indispensable to assist with impact. Could you please share with us the purpose and what do you envision in this new brand?
Well, it's a very timely question, Marco, because I am actually in the process of working with a brand strategist on really taking what I've been doing. I describe it as, you know, we can be I think it's because of the pandemic, the last couple of years, I've been sort of working away at, you know, my methodology. You know, I have the Linchpin Assistant Framework is something that I've done a lot of work developing, and something else called the Assistant Competency Model, which is where I sort of paint the picture of the various zones that assistants are operating in. And so I'm actually working at the moment with a brand strategist, and, you know, you'll hear it here first, that there's going to be some rebranding going on, because I felt strongly for a while that what really resonates for me is this idea of what it means to be a linchpin assistant. And I rebranded the podcast, as you know, because I found that being indispensable, even though I meant it, there was a sense of irony to it, because as a breast cancer survivor, I always, knew better than anyone that we're all dispensable. But I found that term was just quite divisive, and some people loved the idea of being indispensable in terms of an EA, and some people found it a real, that very off-putting, because it felt limiting and it was self-limiting. And so that was the reason why I moved away from being indispensable, because I felt like that wasn't, it was just too divisive. And I rebranded it as Assist with Impact, because at the heart of it, that's what I feel I'm doing in the work that I do, training and coaching and supporting EAs, is helping you assist with impact. However, it's become a very murky, I've got lots of things going on in terms of my sort of catchphrases. And, the other one is how I talk about power skills. So I'm doing some work at the moment to get some clarity and crispness around what my value proposition is. In the same way as I'm constantly telling assistants to be clear on what your unique value proposition is, I've been doing that work for myself, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to being able to share that when it's ready to be announced. But bottom line is that what's next for me is to play to be continuing to elevate and engage and educate assistants so that they can be able to thrive in their role and in life. And, using all of the content and the things that I've worked on, and bringing best, thought leader content, communicating that in a way that makes it something that is a concept that an assistant can hear, how to focus on, having better attention management, or leading from where you are, or influencing without authority, but giving people really practical ways of implementing that. So it's going to be more of that. And hopefully next year, I'm looking to come over to Europe and the UK and North America and roll out some events in those on continents other than Australia, because so far I've obviously been absolutely delighted to connect with EAs and PAs around the world via sort of the online conferences and events. But I'm really looking forward to being able to do something in person and bring, my Linchpin Assistant training to other parts of the world. So that's what's next for me. And the podcast will continue.
Definitely. So it sounds like a plan, Liz. So I'm so happy that you are on one side working in progress, right, on your rebranding, but on the other you are focused on what you need to do in order to stick to your mission and to your vision, being able to provide those insights and those advice to admin professionals all around the world. And the key message here for our audience, I would say that even though the work is still ongoing, in progress, the importance when there is a rebranding is the possibility to envision and to portray in the name or in the sentence or whatever you choose your why, your purpose. And if you are able to find your why, you will be able to shine with your light. I really see that because I was able to find my why, I was able to find my light, and I was able to shine in my role because I found my purpose and I was able to find my drivers in order to shine and in order to share the enthusiasm in my daily work. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I would say that this is pivotal for each admin professional. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yes, I could not agree more. And that's so interesting because, that my why do I do what I do, and why do I focus on the administrative professional, is because I know what it feels like, because, I've come full circle. I started in an admin role when I came out of university and went to IBM as a graduate, and I sat in the foyer in a room, with a bunch of like 40 plus graduates, and they, 90% of them got taken away to another meeting room to start their journey as sales professionals. And I was left there because I was going into administration. And then I had to fight to be able to then grow and develop in my administrative career, and ultimately, continue my career growth in sales. But I know what it feels like to feel that you're not visible and that you're not valued, or that you're undervalued. And that's why when I came into the role of EA and I started my podcast, and that was the message that I kept hearing again and again, was that the value that I brought to the EA PA community was that I was shining a light on people who so often feel that that they're taken for granted and that they're not appreciated. And to be able to do that, as somebody that, survived almost dying of cancer, is such a gift to me to have found my purpose. And that's why I just absolutely love what I do.
That's amazing, Liz. Thanks a lot also for sharing your personal experience, because it's amazing how a person can connect, right? The personal experience to the professional one. And this brings an incredible added value to what you do. I can witness for that. And this is amazing. So thanks a lot for sharing all the information with us. And moving ahead, wrapping up today, I would like to ask you my last question, because you mentioned that you will keep continuing and will keep doing the work that you do. And you would like also to travel, also in Europe, US, UK, in order to present in first person your framework, the Linchpin Assistant Framework, but also your content and your topics and themes around the profession. So my final question for you is, what's next for you, and which are your horizon for this 2022 and for the 2023, which is waiting for us? You have already shared a little bit, but let's focus on this in order to let our audience know what is next for you.
Yeah, well, I will be communicating or seeking out expressions of interest putting a link together for people to be able to, communicate if they would be interested in attending events if I was to organise them in other geographies. And I'm also working on getting my book completed, and having in 2023 releasing my book that really allows people to come into my world and understand my framework and methodology and my approach to the assistant, training and development through a book. So that's also on the agenda.
Wow, it's amazing. I didn't know this project, and it's amazing because I didn't write a book, but I imagine that you need to be focused. You need to really understand which is the key message that you want to convey when you write a book, especially if the book has a global outreach like the one that you are writing. So thanks a lot, and it sounds very exciting. So thanks a lot, Liz. I want to thank you for your time, because it has been amazing, the possibility that we got together and we made this podcast happen. I look forward to meeting you in a next event in Europe, because I understood that you are willing to travel, and of course there will be the possibility now with this new normal. And
I would love I would love nothing more than meeting you face to face, Marco. That would be lovely.
Thanks a lot, Liz, and wishing you all the best. And of course, stay in touch. Wishing you a nice day ahead. Bye.
Thank you. See you later. And thank you and congratulations on all that you do.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.